So when you set up the handlebar on a Guardian bike, there's two things that you want to be aware of. One is trying to get this handlebar in the middle. You don't want it to be too far to the left, too far to the right. You want to line up those grooves right in the middle. The other thing that you want to be aware of before you finish the total assembly is that there's a couple different ways that this handlebar can be angled. You don't want the brake lever to be too far angled down like that or too far angled up like that. You actually want it to be just kind of pointed down a little bit so that it's easy for your child's hand to reach. So with those two things in mind, now we can start putting on the handlebar. So you want to get it more or less centered, but the first thing you're going to do is just hand tighten these bolts. So don't worry too much about having everything perfect when you're just hand tightening it. Just start getting these bolts in. Don't go all the way tight, but just get them in so that this thing can be held in place. And with all these, you do want to make sure that the washer is in place on all these bolts. So once you get the final one, hand tighten it in. Now you can kind of start to manage where the handlebar is centered and what the angle is like. You take your tool and you get the handlebar right in the center, and you get an angle on the brake lever that looks like this. Once you're happy with that, you can start to snug these down just a little bit. You don't want to tighten them too much, but just start snugging them down. And as you're doing that, you want to notice there's a gap here and there's a gap here. You don't want one of those gaps to be closed and the other one open. You want to manage those gaps so that they tighten somewhat evenly. Right now, this top gap is slightly bigger than the bottom gap, and I can feel that with my finger, so I'm just going to tighten the bottoms just a little bit more, a little bit faster than I'm doing the tops. So now we've got that even. Handlebar is still center. Now I'm going to just start snugging these down in a cross pattern so that everything tightens evenly. I can keep doing this in a cross pattern till they start getting a little bit more snug. Now I'll take my Allen key like this, put a little bit more force, still staying in a cross pattern, but now I'm just getting these a little bit more snug. The name of the game here is just keep snugging these down and make sure that they're tightening evenly. You'll feel that some are a little bit easier to tighten than others. That's just things seating evenly. And on your final pass, just make sure you get a nice snug fit. Again, staying in a cross pattern. And once it's all snug, you're ready to ride.